chat. So if there are any good suggestions, I'm happy to get them.
Okay, good. So while we wait for the others to join in, I think we'll send a reminder. Let's get rolling, Martijn. So hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Hitesh Bhatia. I'm from Joining Hands, and today we're with Martijn talking about business spirituality. It's a fairly interesting topic because when we talk about businesses, we normally don't have any space for spirituality in businesses. Businesses are all about finance and money. Am I right? Isn't that that's why you start, right?
Yeah.
You normally typically start off, and I've learned this from you. A lot of people say you start off for a purpose or for a passion. So you would start off saying that, okay, I have a passion about a particular area. Like I was passionate about alternate healing, and that's how we started Joining Hands. And you
Right.
start up with a passion, and as you start up with a passion, over time you realize there are bills to pay, and you have commitments to make, and you can't do things alone. You have to hire people. You have to hire, if you're doing a business in today's day and age, you have to hire a social media manager, a social media company. You have to hire all of that. And then you wonder, how is all of this going to happen? So in all of that, you forget your purpose of why you really started the business. And since you and I know we've had conversations about this, and I was telling you how in India, when we start, we always have a ritual. There's a puja, there's a ceremony to please Lord Ganesha, which is the elephant god, and there's Lakshmi, which is the goddess of wealth. I figured something interesting today with the DNA, where we're starting so many businesses online, and you really aren't doing any rituals anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because you normally do a ritual when you start an office physical, and everything had a physical office pre-COVID.
Oh.
So that's interesting. So I have a couple of questions, and I wanted to understand these from, a couple of them were asked by our community, some by our students in different places. So we've just put all of these together, and we said, let me ask you a couple of questions, and then we can take it from the audience and our participants and what they would like to, look at. So
absolutely.
how is business spirituality really different from being a conscious entrepreneur? Is there a difference in the way I operate?
Yeah, being a conscious entrepreneur is really about your inner state. So it's about how you are mindful, how you are open to new things, and how you relate to yourself and how you relate to the world, which is part of business spirituality. But I think business spirituality is larger than that. It is also about how do you run your business. It's about how do you see your business. Do you see it as, well, a means to making money, or do you see it as, well, what we talk about, an organism? Is it something alive? Is it serving a higher purpose, or is it just to make money? So for me, business spirituality is more about business and how people act in business, and the conscious entrepreneur. Well, I think the CEO or the entrepreneur running a business, yeah, a conscious entrepreneur also will do business spirituality, but it takes a little bit more than just being conscious. It also requires a different view and a different paradigm on what business is.
And it's interesting, right? Because if you build an aggressive growth business, you're considered greedy. I mean, look at Jeff Bezos, who's building Amazon, or Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. We normally consider them to be greedy, or we look at them and say, okay, you know what? These guys are all about the money, and it's not really about the purpose. In all of that, is it okay to say that I want to grow my business 100x and yet be spiritual, or be a spiritual business?
Well, for me, when you run a business spirituality, or when you do it, yeah, systemically and, well, intuitively, it's always the question, where does your intervention come from?
Hmm.
Where does the need to grow come from? Where does the need to grow 100 times come from? Um, is that from the ego that wants more money, that wants more status, that wants more to be seen, that wants to, well, whatever, rule the world, power? Or does it come from this inner intuitive voice or feeling or image that you feel like, okay, to really live my life fully and to really contribute to this world, we need to grow this business 100 times. Actually, today I talked to this lady. She's on her own, having is a therapist, and but she had this image every time and again, like she being in a big group with a big, huge group of people. And we explored today. So is that like your ego, or is this something that you really need to build? Do you need to grow and reach more people? So and even with Facebook and also the Amazon, I think they started with a purpose. And I'm not sure if they're good or bad. It's not about good or bad, but it's like, okay, this growth and this continuously wanting to growth, and it also makes my fist a little bit strong, and it's like tensing in my body. So it's not, for me, it doesn't feel like a relaxed way and an intuitive way of growing. It's more like we have to grow and we want to grow, and it's like, oh. So there's a difference what ignites the growth and the wish to grow. So it could be, yeah. So but that's actually with everything you do in business, and that's also why I like facilitating business constellations or family constellations for that matter. Is that as a facilitator, you also need to be in this state like, okay, so when am I going to do an intervention? When do I let the constellation do its work, and when do I intervene? And the same goes for your business, and the same goes actually for your life. So yeah, so growth is perfectly okay as long as it comes from this more intuitive layer.
It's interesting, right? Because you normally look at growth more as a target.
Yes.
Yeah. And but you look at when you look at an organizational growth, it's more as a target. When you look at self growth, it's more as a goal.
Yeah. What is the difference between a goal and a target?
Actually, what I found out that we chase targets and you attract goals.
Ah, okay.
It's more about I think targets are specific to a number,
Okay.
and goals are about more about a state, right? Right. My
For me,
goal,
growth is more like a means to a higher goal. So growth in itself is never a goal.
right?
It's because you want to sustain a family, or maybe it's because you want to reach more people, or you want to change something in the world, or you want to provide people. I have a friend of mine who wants to grow. I said, why do you want to grow with your business? He has now 200 people or so. I say, well, because he says, because I want to give people a place that they can grow themselves. And in order to do that, I need to give them more opportunities. So it was not because of the money or more and larger, but it was to give his people a place to grow and to develop themselves. So yeah, it's always a means to an end. That's the same with money. Money is always a means to an end.
So we have a small group today here. And the
Yeah.
way I look at it, most of these people in the group are professionals. They are therapists or they're healers. So should they be asking themselves, and why should they be wanting to grow their practice? Because at the end of the day, I'm looking at the group, and most of the people who I know are practicing therapists or healers. So why should they be? Should is this a question that they should ask themselves?
Yeah, so there's always this tension. Some people don't want to grow. So some people want to grow because it's like this ego thing. But with therapists, I see a lot they don't want to grow. But that could also be an ego thing, that they are afraid to be more visible, afraid to really come out and show something to the world and really make a big impact. So I think you always need to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And why am I not doing what I'm not doing? And what impulse am I following and what am I not following? And why not? Is it fear? Is it something else? Is it something in the, yeah, what I call subconscious undercurrent? So on the surface, it might seem, oh, I don't want to grow because I'm happy the way I am. But then underneath, somewhere there is this loyalty to a family member, or there is, well, something happened in the past life, or there's something in the industry that creates this limiting beliefs or this limiting energy of growth. Um, so yes, it's always a good question to ask, why don't I want to grow, or why do I want to grow? Yeah.
So could it also be a fear of growth?
Yes, absolutely.
And that could be inherited.
Could be inherited, could be yeah, well, from there are different causes of the fear of growth or fear of success. It could be like a family burden that's inherited. Could be from something from past lives. With therapy, I see that a lot have a lot of power, like energetic powers, and in past lives they use that to kill people, manipulate people, and now they still feel that pain that they can cause a lot of death and destruction with it, and that puts like a break on using those powers. But when they see that, okay, I can use them for the good, because I it's up to me what I use them for, it's much better. um it could also have to do something with your current life, where there's something happened in the past in your youth that you are, yeah, you learn to be very quiet, very small, and that made you survive. Could also be something in society, that society says, I don't know the Indian society that well, but that says, oh, in the Netherlands, for example, it's like, well, do normal, then you are strange enough. That's what we say. So we don't grow higher than than your neighbors, because then we just cut off the head because we can see it. So that's also could also be something in the culture and in the society, and that's also something to be aware of, because we're all part of culture, and we systemically we want to belong, and if belonging means I need to stay small and I don't need to be very special, then that's what we tend to do.
So it's interesting, no? Because when you take all of this learning and you look at industries and you look at how it works within organizations. So you've got on one side, you've got um, the camera makers of the world. And today, if you ask someone, would they like to make or launch a new camera? They'd say no, because today your phone is your camera. And then you had this company called Instamax or Instax, I think, which launched those Polaroid cameras that
Ah,
suddenly
yes.
went, and is there a spiritual element? Because if everything is about it's there's also an element of the industry, right? Because cameras are dead. I mean, the only cameras you use today are DSLR. Nobody would think about saying, okay, I'm going to have a, I mean, this is your camera today,
Yeah.
unless you're a professional photographer. So do companies, how much of the impact is of the industry in any business?
I'm not sure if I get your question right, or your, yeah, what.
Let me rephrase my question. Um, is there an impact of the industry in how successful my business could be? Because if I'm a camera manufacturer, or let's say I want to launch a new camera today, it wouldn't make sense, right? Because it's dead. The industry is dead.
Not totally, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this is like that you are able to serve and to sense what is the developments in my industry. Instead of saying, okay, I'm here and I plan 50 years ahead. That's something we could do like 56, 80 years ago. When I was in university, they call it scenario planning. That's what Shell did, the big, well, English Dutch firm. They said, okay, we plan 50 years ahead and we have all these three scenarios, but now we cannot plan 50 years ahead. So because everything is changing so fast, well, with the cameras, it was like instantly, almost like the codec with the film rolls. Yeah,
Mhm.
they lost everything because it's all digital and now it's all in your phone. So this, yeah, of course, this is an influence of the industry, but the better companies have like this intuitive, spiritual sensing skills, where they sense where is this going to. Because how I see it is that if you go to these deeper layers, this subconscious undercurrent, like I call it, there is no time and there's no space. So you tap into this timeless, non-local realm. So there you can already find information about what's going to happen tomorrow, maybe next month, or maybe even next year. So you can already pick up the trends, you can pick up the movements that are happening in society, happening in the industry. So people with a are actually companies that have created procedures or created means of tapping into this collective intelligence, this deeper layer. They're more likely to survive because they already get information before it's already just right in their face and they're too late to turn the boat.
And that could be absolutely unconscious, right? Where you've tapped into that.
Yeah. Some do it very consciously. I do it consciously, but some people are very good at it. They're just, oh, I don't know, but for some reason, let's do this. Or they have a meeting and they say, oh, yeah, we come up with a new camera ID which doesn't have a film roll. Or, well, yeah. So it can be very subconscious, but the more conscious you make it, I think the better you can also manage it or use it and do it not only for accidentally one thing, but do it more consistently in your whole company.
Interesting. Do you think that um, businesses can also inherit trauma? I mean, not maybe trauma, but can a business inherit patterns, maybe from the space?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we call in systemic jargon. It's like repeating patterns.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's something like I've seen it, for example, with this Dutch. It's European examples. I have a lot. We have the Belgians, and the Belgians have a Dutch-speaking and a French-speaking part. So, and there is some tension between these two, and that's also because of the war between France and the Netherlands. So now I had a client who was a project manager, and she had to work with. She was from the French-speaking part of Belgium, and she had to work with a Dutch-speaking guy. And when she did the constellation, she put a representative for this Dutch guy. It was like a big rock. And she put it on the table like, yeah, this is him. And I thought, whoa, there's a lot of energy here, which is not it's not normal energy for colleagues. It's more war energy or some really aggressive energy. So for me, when the energy is not um, appropriate for the setting, then there is some other pattern that's repeated here. So what I did, I added a representative for the original fight or the original war between France and Belgium or whatever. It doesn't matter really what it was, but that was the pattern that was repeated in this relationship. So actually, they were fighting the war between France and the Dutch in this
Wow.
relationship, but because it was not their fight, they could never solve it. So they needed to really see that, okay, so actually we were doing something where this pattern is repeated in our relationship. So that was a very big one. It was like a country pattern repeated in a relation between two people. But you can also have a pattern between two of the CFO and the CEO, and it's repeated between two teams, or it's repeated between a team manager and a team member. So there could be all kinds of patterns that are repeated within the organization, but also between the organization and their clients. So it's very interesting, not even doing a constellation, but looking at these repeating patterns, because the same will happen between you and that client. So you can already, when you work with that client, you can see the pattern that's happening between us might say something about the pattern that is an issue in your company. Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting. So this is to everyone out there who's watching us. I know it's dinner time in India. You probably are in the kitchen or you probably are traveling back from work. At 8 o'clock, Martijn is going to do a constellation. We're going to choose someone from here who would like a constellation. You know,
Yeah.
so we have some questions already. I just have one or two more questions for Martijn, and then then you can ask questions. This is going to be a business constellation. So we're going to choose someone who has a business, is either probably working in an organization. Is that also
Could
okay?
also be like if you're a manager or team manager. Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody who does will have to have their videos on because that's most important for the entire process.
Yes.
Now that is not going to work. So
And if you can put your question in the chat and maybe one sentence about the company, like the size, and what your function is. So then I can look in the chats and I will select one intuitively that, and also like I see, okay, maybe this is a good example for the whole group. So
yeah. So it's going to be a business constellation. We're looking for someone who's ideally running their own business, is an entrepreneur, or has their own business, or works in an organization, or is maybe a solopreneur wanting to start off their own practice also. Yeah. And then
good.
your question, you can put what problem you would like to address in the chat. And from those of you who want a constellation for themselves, we will, we'll choose one. So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting conversation, Martin, what we're talking about, because you normally don't look at life like this, right? And like I said, in India, we see it so common that post the start of the business, and I was talking to a friend today, and I told him that when it's Diwali, which is the big Indian festival, we will go and we will do a ritual around the machines and around I don't know what they call them. Someone back me up on this. We call that Chopra Puja in Gujarati, where they do the puja of the books. So in the olden days, we had these books, which were like these big books, which kept all the accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and they would really worship the books. You would do like a swastik, what Hitler used, which is a very interesting Indian ritual. You would do that and do a little ritual for the machinery, for the books. In fact, it's interesting because the stock market has something called Mahurat trading. So if you're a stockbroker where you're dealing in shares and equities, on the day of Diwali, you operate for an hour because it's considered auspicious and good luck to just
Mm.
do a trade on that day. And then after that day, if things don't, Saraswati Puja and Diwali Puja, different parts of the country, it's called differently.
Okay.
And then the very next day, if things go wrong, you never go back to the ritual. Then it's all, let me do firefighting, because that day it's all surrender to the god and it's all alignment. But the very next day, it's all about, I have to solve the problem. And that's typically how it works. So we spoke about karma in businesses. We spoke about all of these things, and I'm sure the conversation can go on, but I also have my eye on the clock. How do I, as a founder, know that my business decision is truly right? It's aligned to my soul, and it's aligned to the soul and the spiritual element of the business.
Yeah, that's the key question, right?
Yeah.
So, as a founder, I would say the most important thing you have to do is to clean up the mess inside of you and to clean up all your ego stuff, your past lives, all your issues from your past. Be very, yeah, let go of everything. And then you're an open channel and you
Mhm.
can really tap into your pure intuition. And from there, know, see, listen, hear what is the right decision. But then the right decision is always interesting because what's right, what's wrong. Sometimes a decision can lead to something that we would call bad or not good or, well, worse than it is. But in the end, it might be a detour that life needs to take you back on the road somewhere else that brings like a lot of success. So you also need to be, well, like maybe humble and surrender to these larger forces that are active in your business, in life, and trust the process that it will go wherever it needs to go. But again, well, we're back to the beginning of the story, is it depends on where does this decision come from? Does it come from this ego part or does it come from your intuition? So therefore, for me also a lot of an important part of business spirituality is this conscious entrepreneur, who is not, yeah, conscious but also, um, yeah,
The
it's
intuitive
almost
entrepreneur.
empty. Yeah. So yeah, you don't know what's good or bad decision, but you need to know, does it come from the intuitive place or does it come from my ego place? Maybe that's a good question.
Interesting. And I think that's it's like a loop, right? You're always wondering, am I acting from my ego or am I acting from my biggest spiritual alignment?
Yeah, so that's a practice. And then when you practice that a lot, you will find out, okay, for me, when it feels like this, or when I see this, or when I hear this, there are different ways that your intuition talks to you, or this you can sense this alignment. But when you practice that, you know, oh, for me, this it works like this. And okay, this is my ego, because you also know your pitfalls. I know my pitfalls. I know, oh yeah, I like the harmony. I like to be seen, and I like to be loved. So whenever that comes up, I know, oh, okay, now I need to be aware. Yeah.
Interesting. So Prachi has a question on how do we break this pattern? I think the answer is really simple. Get a constellation done.
Get the constellation done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
business.
Constellations help to break that pattern. Sometimes it's also good to already see the pattern and realize it's not your pattern, but you're repeating somebody else's pattern, and that's already helping. And but sometimes it's stuck, or it's like a deep pattern, and then you need to do a constellation for that. Yeah.
Interesting. And then I saw one other question that Din Duty, I don't think you can work on this for your brother. I mean, that would make you, the fact that you want to solve it gets you already entangled in the business of your brother. Am I right? Martijn,
Yeah. If you want to do something for somebody else, it's always interesting, because what place are you taking them? What is your stake here? And why do you care so much for your brother that you want to solve his problem? So then I would rather do a family constellation about the relationship between you and your brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with a facilitator today morning. And have you heard of Tiziano?
No.
Tiziano is this young and very, very upcoming facilitator from Australia.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, very, very, very active on Instagram and doing a lot of interesting work. And he was talking about certification in the program. He says, when I meet people who keep asking me, is the program certified? Do I get a certificate? The first question I ask them is, how's your relationship with your father? He says, the want of a certificate for the program, what are you looking at validation? Because a certificate validates what you do. And he
That's a
said
good
that's
question.
the whole loop, that a certificate is because you're looking at validation. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, we're 8:01. So
Yes.
so it's up to you, Martijn, now. You're the
Let me check the questions.
We've got Panjami, we've got Pallavi.
Let me see. What do I have here?
Do you want me to spotlight them on the screen so you can see them?
No, I look at the questions. That's good. I've session of corporate experience, have my training in consulting. Now the visible industry.
I think you can put some information about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, but I need to know the specific question. So
Exactly my point.
if I don't have a question, I cannot see if it's what I want. Can I get one done for my brother? Oh, no. The pattern
We'll give you 3 minutes to put down a specific question that you want to address.
Yeah, growth and success block is almost always family related. To attract the right people to work with. Okay, so that's a marketing question. Marketing question is always interesting. It could be something in your family system that's blocking this, or it could be something in the industry or in your business, or maybe the right channels that you haven't found yet. So let's see if we have some more.
Yeah, so just for the newcomers, Martijn is offering a free business constellation right now. And for those of you who would like to get one done, just put the question that you have in the chat. What is it that you would like to work on? This is a business constellation. If you're a professional working in a job, in an organization, put in maybe a line about your business. What is it that you do?
Yeah, and I see a lot about money, about success, and I think that's something we're going to look at also during the training. But it's really related to the family system. Often you're carrying a burden from some family member who didn't have success or couldn't have success. It's a big pattern I see with entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs. I want healing for right work and people. Best career opportunity to come to me. Yeah, so that's a career question, which is also interesting.
Anybody else? Give it another 1 minute and then you can choose.
Yes, 1 minute.
Yeah, these are all more family constellation questions. It's for business and it's for jobs also, Poonam. If you're an employee working in an organization and you feel that you're not, am I right, Martin? You're not able to grow professionally, or you're not able to attract professional success, or you have issues with your colleagues.
Yeah, if there's like a team issue or if there's an issue with clients that keep coming back, or there's this one position in an organization that every time somebody occupies this position, it's not going right, it's going wrong, and we get a new one and it's still repeating. But I see that yeah. So this is, and a lot of questions are a mix. They're a mix of family business or business or so. Okay. One new. My boss changes, but my situation remains the same. Can we put a question what intention you can put while running a business? I don't get that, Madura. Not able to convince my management for getting the adjustment that I want in terms of travel and stay. Team client market blocks. Streams of income structure are all the represented are all the I have faced challenges with younger colleagues who are 20 years as I am now 57, how to overcome their intention. Interesting one. So here you see something about order. There's always an order in systems, and age is an important order. And all these young children or colleagues, but at the same time they're needed because 57. Well, I don't know when you retire in India, but well, there's a moment that the young people need to take over. Let's work with this one. We're going to work with Teflin, who says, I would like to have one done for my healing business to attract the right people to work with. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Will we already start? Is everybody in or?
Do we allow more people to enter or not after now?
Yeah, so everybody, the other people can also join now.
Those who would like to be and observe, please keep your videos on. That's important. Over to you, Martijn.
Yeah.